Welcome to Lahaina, a wonder of endless beauty and nature. Let your troubles melt away on this tropical paradise. Relax your mind and soul on one of our breathtaking beaches, or stimulate your adventurous side with exciting activities found all over the island. The Aloha spirit will leave its mark on you and keep you coming again and again. Get ready for an unforgettable experience that is sure to bring you peace, serenity, and plenty of magical memories. Lahaina, the destination of a lifetime.
Hello Ratbags, this is your girl Kaya here, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be looking at Fractured Veil, a new game coming out. Today I'm doing an interview with one of the developers on the team, talking about what's in Fractured Veil and what you can expect and look forward to in the future. So I hope you enjoy the interview. But just before that, if you'd like to check me out on Current Fire on YouTube. But back to the video.
Basically, the game takes place around about 100 years from now, so around like the year 2119, 2120, after 100 years after humanity started pursuing some seemingly wonderful miracle technology that eventually led to our demise, initially used for power generation as well as interdimensional travel, and then, as things happen to do in these kind of storylines, things went terribly wrong, and it spelled the end of humanity. So the players start off as kind of the first wave of people that are being restored from backups. There's kind of a surviving space station in orbit run by an AI, and it's kind of the only surviving orbital structure that contains kind of the genetic and memory backups of a bunch of humans that were backed up before. The fracture is what we're calling it. So the player is kind of like that first wave of people being backed up, sent back down to the planet to kind of go and rebuild the remains of humanity in this dimension and other kind of parallel universes. And as you're coming in at the end of an apocalypse, kind of humanity has been reset, so our technologies are back to the basics, but there is the ability to find and kind of upgrade the tech tree, so to speak, by going out through the world and finding tech and researching recipes and all of that. So that's kind of like where you start off, and then from there it's going to be a lot of the stuff that you're going to expect out of a survival game, in terms of the harvesting, crafting, staying alive, not dying, and then with hopefully a lot of the unique elements that we want to mix into the genre, particularly kind of blending the MMO and survival genres and finding a balance between those two genres that feels a little bit unique compared to some of the other offerings out there.
Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic idea so far. But with the story, do you think it will be more like, when you're playing it, will be a linear kind of story driven, or will it be like unlinear, so more open world and you just experience things as you go, or you're following like a straight track kind of thing?
Oh, yeah, great question. Yeah, it'll be completely open world driven. So the story will certainly form kind of the canvas upon which your player's experience is painted, I guess. But it's more of something that will be revealed as you go through the world. The story itself, like I said, forms more of the backdrop as opposed to the foreground. The foreground is something that will be painted by the player in terms of what they choose to do. So it's a completely open world, unguided, non-linear experience.
Did you and any of the PCG team work on any games before this one?
Yeah, not so the PCG is the company that we spun up to start and own Fractured Veil, but everyone else on the dev team for Fractured Veil does come from a lot of other projects, and in terms of the ones that we've all worked on together, there's certainly a good number of them. So there's mainly been working with indies for the past 10 or 11 years. So a lot of titles that you're never going to have heard of because they just didn't make it to market, as is the case with the indie struggle. But we've got a few recognizable games under our belt that we took part in. We weren't, the sole developer of, but games like Lawbreakers, Grip, and Morphe's Law was another one. We just finished some work on Predator Hunting Grounds. So kind of we operated as kind of a work-for-hire studio for a lot of other larger studios.
Now, a really big question I have to ask you is, I don't know if you have the answer to this one, but when do you plan to release this to the public?
So it's kind of like Gmail or Rust. It's like we're definitely planning on releasing it in early access here. In like I wouldn't say in the short term, but in the midterm for sure. But in terms of how long it's going to be in that early access phase, I mean, it could be years. But we really are hoping to open the doors up to at least a few hundred more players, if not a few thousand more players, in the very short term. So in like the next 6 months or so, and that's why people should hop on our Discord and fill out the form where they can submit to be a tester, because pretty much everybody that submits to be a tester will get approved pretty quick. And what we want to do is we just want to be running the server with a few hundred, daily active users for a while, adjusting it, tuning it, getting things feeling right, implementing features and feedback, and then open it up to a few thousand more people, and kind of we're probably going to be doing that for the next little while to hone in on obviously a stable, well-performing product, but then also on the fun that players really want to see.
Yeah, it must be quite challenging to get quite a lot of people on the server at one time. Will that strain to try and optimize that?
Yeah, it's easily the biggest challenge. So the game runs on Unreal 4, and Unreal 4 essentially is an engine built for Fortnite. And that's kind of when you're working with Unreal, you are getting an incredibly powerful piece of technology, but the technology is also optimized for a very specific type of game because, that's the game that makes Epic billions and billions of dollars. So it makes sense that they're going to make sure it runs really well for that type of game. And then when you want to take the engine to a different genre or start making it do things that are not really Fortnite, then you start running into a lot of challenges. And that's where you need to start customizing the engine itself, making custom technology. Unreal does really well running games on servers that don't have a lot of trees, which you can see that we do, that are a certain size, which we are not. We are much larger. The beginning map right now is 64 square kilometers, and it'll probably expand to a few hundred square kilometers. And so again, this is not stuff that the engine really likes to do. And then also it really wants to play on servers with 32 or maybe 64 at max people. And our goal eventually is to be looking at hundreds and hundreds of people playing together in the main world.
Oh, wow.
So the majority of our time is really spent kind of coaxing the engine to do all of these things it really doesn't want to do.
Definitely got your work cut out for you there then.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that we've been focusing on for the last 4 years that we've been working on this is getting the multiplayer side of it. If we weren't making a multiplayer game that had to support, hundreds of people, this thing would have been finished a very long time ago.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard work to do. And I see you're now doing the construction. How many tiers do you go up with that kind of thing? I see you got the wood, the thatch, and the metal. Can you upgrade any further, or is that kind of your 3 tiers?
Yep, I can actually start from scratch here. So the way the construction system works is, as you'd expect in a lot of these games, you start with your thatch or your twig or whatever else they want to call it. And these are just the very cheap pieces. I think they cost like 10 wood each or something like that. So it's the way that you lay down the scaffolding for your house. And then from there, and as you'd expect in most games, they're, very weak. So if you're getting raided, then it doesn't take very long to destroy them. But from there, you can go ahead and build upgrade to stone, wood, and metal. So we've got our 3 tiers of upgrading. And so you do that just by selecting your upgrade repair tool, holding down right click, getting your upgrade menu, and then choosing the material that you want. And then you just go up to the pieces that you want and then just right click.
Well, I know you were like saying about Ark and Conan earlier. Usually with their building mechanics, you do have to like destroy quite a bit because you can't really upgrade the pieces as you're doing right now. So this is a lot better and a more convenient way to do it.
Yeah, I mean the one thing, like I said, all of these games we take the good and the bad, and there's so much in Conan that they've done really, really well. But one of the things that personally irritates me the most as a player that really loves to build big bases is those games that force you to go into a crafting menu first, and then find your piece that you want to build, and you build 20 walls, and then okay, now I've got my 20 walls, and I'm going to go place my 20 walls. And what we want to do with the construction system is just centralize everything into a menu. So whether I want to build foundations, walls, floors, stairs, miscellaneous like attachments and stuff like that, having it all just in one place.
Now I do have a quite interesting question for you. Like with some of Jade's audience, like on the channel,
sure,
there is quite a few console people. Would you ever consider putting it on console, or do you have like any ideas for that kind of thing, or will it mainly stay on Steam for now?
So it'll mainly stay on Steam for now, and it'll be staying on Steam for sure through this kind of development period, like we were talking about, and that's just because the cost of doing what's called your TRCs for console development, that's basically the checklist that you have to go through before Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo will allow the game to be on the console. It's so huge and it's so much work. Usually you're looking at least $75,000 to $100,000 worth of labor just to get it ready for console. If it can be brought to console in its current form, chances are some of our massive open world technology would have to be rewritten for console. So the first bet that we'd be looking for would probably be something like Stadia or the NVIDIA GeForce one, but in terms of like a cloud-based console like that, because that requires fairly minimal porting. But once the game is in a stable state, we have a large enough audience, then without a doubt, going to console is the next natural step.
That's great to hear. Fingers crossed for you, because it seems really good from what I'm seeing right now. Definitely looks very good. Now, I see you've had like mutants in the game. Could you tell me more about them? Is there like different types? What do they do? What's their purpose, kind of thing?
Yeah, why don't we go and find some? So we've got two types of mutants right here, and you can see that one of them is dead. I killed this guy with the arrow earlier. So this is our trophy collector, and he's a ranged AI unit. He's got a little bag of heads there that he throws at the player, and they explode in big clouds of clouds of poison. And then these are our cannibals, and what they do is they wander around the world on their own, but whenever there's a dead body on the ground that isn't disposed of properly, it will spawn these cannibals to come and feast on it. And then once the cannibals have feasted on it for a certain amount of time, they will get big buffs and they'll get faster and more HP. So it's one of these things that we really want to encourage players to kind of clean up their mess when they're done, because if they don't, then, as you can see, I lit the body on fire. Now the cannibals aren't interested anymore, so they'll wander off. So those are two types. We've got our standard mutants. So these guys are your standard melee dudes. They'll just run at you and try to take a piece out of you with a cleaver.
Yeah. So it's very important to clean up after yourself and all that. Would it be worth like farming them at all or anything? So if you wanted to go around on a killing spree and have some fun, do they drop anything special or anything?
Yeah, so they a lot of the mutants will drop so the in-game currency. So eventually the purpose will be to loot them for rye, and rye will be used to unlock. Oh, you can see that now they've stiffened on their dead body. So normally they're supposed to be feasting right now, but it doesn't look like they're playing that animation. So the in-game currency that gets dropped, that'll be used to unlock blueprints and other things later on.
Right,
and then
yeah.
of course you could also just harvest them for the meat if you wanted to, just so that you can make a campfire and cook some meat like you would in most games.
Oh no, you could eat the people. That's great.
Yeah, it probably doesn't have the highest nutritional content in the world, but yeah. And then on top of that, we also have your standard animals in games like this. So for now, they're kind of just placeholder. So we're looking at wolves, bears, and deer. Yeah, what we've done is we've reconstructed from satellite imagery. So we've reconstructed the island of Maui. That's where the game takes place, and we've reconstructed all of the actual roads from satellite images. So
Oh,
all of the
wow.
roads and everything like that we see are built around the real thing. And then the idea is to build a lot of the rest of the world also around the real world Maui data. But real world Maui data is a lot less interesting than what we want. So it's just a lot of houses, and we kind of want more interesting things.
You're gonna spice it up a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you gonna have like lots of buildings as well in this kind of area?
Yeah, so there are already hundreds and hundreds of buildings. So we have a procedural building system that takes, like, I'll show you these guys. So these guys are all procedurally generated. So we've got, like, you can imagine it like a Lego set, right? Where you've got walls and doors and ramps and roof pieces. And then we've got a system that we run, and it just generates hundreds and hundreds of buildings with various combinations.
Oh wow! Okay, so it's like randomly, procedurally generated buildings?
Absolutely. Now, I mean, it's not like it's going to change every time you join the world, but what it means is that it means as developers, all we have to do is build like that wall piece, this roof piece, this floor piece, these doors, and then that's enough for us to say, okay, now go generate like 1,000 different configurations of this house. And then as a player, you don't really know what you're going to get every time you enter a new house.
Yeah, and with this bank account, is there like a limited amount of slots? Do you need to go anywhere for it, or can you build like your own kind of thing for it?
So the bank is going to be in the safe areas. So the building that I was just in, for example, that's where one of the they're called like the veiled drops are. And so yeah, they're going to be in those safe areas. So worst case scenario, you die. You're going to respawn and still have access to a limited amount of stuff. They're going to have a limited amount of storage in them. Again, to encourage players to use them, maybe only to store the absolutely most important things. But the vast majority of your stuff you're going to want to put in your base that you build.
Ah, that's great. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up most of the questions I have. There's been a lot of questions. Is there anything you would like to say, or anything you'd like to tell people?
I think we really covered it. In terms of more information about the game, if you want to learn more, obviously you can go to fracturedveil.com. There's links there for our Discord, and we are going to be opening the game up to more alpha testers, and the idea is just to get as many people in as we can so that we can stress test the servers and we can get great ideas. So if you join the alpha test, chances are you will probably get accepted. So that's just by going to, I think it's discord.gg/fracturedveil to join that, and then you'll get access to the forums and whatnot. But no, we're just really, really excited after working on this for so many years to be able to start opening up to players and to take the base that we have and to now start focusing on kind of specifics that are driven by what our community tells us.
Well, it's great to see, and I wish you the best with carrying on this game and developing it. It's been really cool to see all the features and talk to you about all these things and how they work.
Yeah, and thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat and ask all of the great questions that you asked. We'll send over some keys for you guys and your community. So if you want to do a key giveaway or something like that, we'll give you guys a big lump of keys to give away. And any other questions that you have, just feel free to ask.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Thank you very much. It's so kind of you. Thank you for spending your time today. And yeah. I'll be sure to talk to you more about the game as it comes out and all that business.